Excited to have Dr. Roman Yampolskiy with us. We're going to be talking about, will AI end humanity? AI could possibly release a deadly virus. Which jobs will it eliminate? How it will dominate humans through superintelligence? How a global collapse could be triggered? How AI could be worse than nuclear weapons? And whether we are living in a simulation. We have got Dr. Roman's links in the description box, his X, his Google Scholar, and his book, which is called Considerations on the AI Endgame, Ethics, Risks, and Computational Frameworks, all down there in the description box. So please support his work. So huge thank you for coming on.
Thanks so much for inviting me. Not a lot of happy topics you planned for us.
What first got you into this?
It's the most interesting topic, intelligence. I research what it is, how to measure it, how to create it, how to detect it. Anything to do with intelligence is fascinating.
And what age did that start?
The start was part of a broader PhD in cybersecurity. We were looking at how do we detect bots online. So back in the day, online poker, online casinos were very common, popular, and infested with poker bots. So the research was all about finding out who's the real person, who's a bot, and trying to make sure bots don't steal all the resources. But as the bots got smarter, we kind of scaled beyond just online poker to really seeing what artificial general intelligence has in store for us.
And there's a lot of speculation about there's a race between China and America to dominate AI. Is that a valid thing?
It is huge. There is an arms race between nations as well as between large corporations. So we have OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, DeepMind all competing within US, but then there are top companies, and also at level of military, there is competition for who's going to be a dominant force in the military application of AI.
And I once read a book called Guns, Germs, and Steel. And basically what it laid out was that whoever gets the military innovation the first dominates the rest of the world. Is that the case? Hold on a second. I think there's something going on here. Can you guys see me on the screen right now? Is this? Oh, yeah, it is playing. It is playing. All right. So who dominates the technological innovation? Whoever gets the start on the rest of the world dominates the rest of the world. Do you think that is something in play right now, and that's why China and America are investing so much money in AI?
Definitely, before we get to human level or above, that's the case. Whoever has more advanced drones, drone detection, cyber weapons will dominate militarily, absolutely. So the next couple of years, it's all about having the best military AI.
And if you look at the amounts of money being invested then in both of the countries, how do they compare?
So we don't know specific numbers for what the governments do, what the military spends. We kind of see the build up in infrastructure, fundraising, stop being in billions. Now we're talking $7 trillion data centers. So it's a complete game changer. We never had anything comparable.
Yeah, and I'm looking at China. You've got companies like WeRide. I've already got the driverless taxis running around. I was just watching videos of police robots in China. Do you think they're ahead of America in some areas?
So definitely in deployment of applications of this technology, they may not be the ones developing cutting edge models, but they are definitely much better at applying it, making it affordable, and deploying it on large scale. They have a lot less concerns about data privacy, about not having government employ those tools. And so, yeah, they're years ahead of us in many applications.
So as AI gets more integrated into military applications, how will that change society?
So the concern is that the cost of going to war will become a lot smaller. You don't have to risk human life as much. Overall cost of small drones versus major military equipment is much smaller. So that basically means that a more advanced nation can easily go to war as much as it wants. That's the concern. The benefit is we are losing less of our soldiers.
All right, so you're saying that's a benefit, but if you look at how many people die each century from World War, because of advances in technology, those numbers go up every century. So isn't this just a way to have even more efficient wholesale slaughter?
I'm not sure if we're actually increasing the number of people killed in wars. I think if you look at history of humanity, especially as a percentage of population, we are doing really well right now. A war with 50,000 is considered the worst thing happening in the world. We used to lose dozens of millions, hundreds of millions prior to that.
Yeah, but isn't that because we've not used all of the technology we've presently got, including nuclear weapons?
Yeah, we have more precise weapons. You don't have to take out the whole city if your target is just an individual.
I see. Yeah, that sounds altruistic, but for reading Guns, Germs, and Steel, whoever gets the big guns wipes everybody else out, or dominates them, suppresses them, enslaves them, and takes over the world. And we've seen that cycle going back thousands of years. So are you saying that these politicians or whatever decision makers the AI is in the hands of are going to altruistically pinpoint the targets? Because, we saw with Gulf War II, they were showing us all of these precision bombings of Iraq when they told us that the bullshit that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. But looking at the actual numbers of collateral damage, war on terror, 5 million dead, more than half of them women or kids. It ended up with Cheney and al making billions off bombing the poorest countries in the world. It doesn't seem to me like the psychopaths in power care too much about pinpoint accuracy, but they do care about portraying that to the public. They gesture peace, but behind the scenes, they'll do whatever they can get away with to dominate.
Look at more recent wars. So Ukraine versus Russia, right? Russia has more nuclear weapons than anyone. If the goal was to cause maximum damage, there wouldn't be Ukraine today. They clearly making a choice not to use that level of weapons and more switching to cheap, easily navigatable drones on both sides.
Yeah, so the special military operation, I wouldn't classify that as something that, if you look in the context of world wars throughout history, I'm not taking away from the horror of what's happened and the millions of people dead, but it's not at the level we saw with World War One, World War Two. If it got to that level again, and these psychopaths employed AI, then the consequences would be a huge dystopia, wouldn't it?
So there is just not a reason to destroy most populace. Your goal is usually the leader of the other nation or a specific subgroup of people, generals, whoever. And with a swarm of drones, you can target a particular individual with almost no way to defend them.
Yeah, but civilizations have demonized other civilizations, and like we saw in the Holocaust, where they just completely refer to wiping these people out as vermin, etc. Isn't there something in human nature that's immutable, that this just arises when we get in these war situations?
Again, we have this recency bias where we look at the latest thing as absolutely the worst. If you zoom out and look at humanity as a whole, we live in very good moral times with very little torture, very little genocide. Things are getting better in that respect.
Well, I think you have got a much more optimistic outlook than myself. So let's go over to, could AI release a deadly virus?
So that's actually a big concern. And you bring up genocide and Holocaust and things like that. We have technology now to create viruses which target specific demographics. It is not science fiction. It's possible to do that type of biological weapons, and AI, first as a tool and later as an agent, can definitely utilize something like that. I don't think there is any reason for it to do it once it's an agent against specific groups of humans, but humanity as a whole. Whereas until it is an agent and is still a tool, it's possible that somebody would target a specific genome.
So when we first reported on COVID getting leaked from a lab in Wuhan, YouTube forced us to take our videos down, and we were only allowed to report on what the World Health Organization was putting out there. But now, many people are accepting that it very well could have come from a lab leak in Wuhan. I mean, what do you think the origin of COVID? Do you think the lab leak theory?
Absolutely, there is no question about it. If you look at all the coincidences in terms of proximity, in terms of novelty of that subchain within DNA, it's definitely not evolved.
So, do you think that the lab leak was intentional so that pharmaceutical companies could make the biggest profits in the history of the world? Or do you think it was just human error?
It's very unlikely to be intentional given it's a foreign nation with centralized government. I don't think they care much about their corporations maximizing profit. It was a mistake. We kind of know how it happened. One of the people experimenting spilled something and went home with it. So yeah, no, I don't think there is a bigger conspiracy other than them suppressing initial leak.
All right. So, if AI were to release a deadly virus, would it do that from its own cognition, or would it be set in play by people who could potentially profit from that?
So again, we have to look at what do we mean by the term. So there is AI tools right now, and they can be used for biological research, assisting in that to a human. We predict that at some point in the near future, the tools will become independent agents. And that's the paradigm shift where AI itself decides what to do and why to do it. So both could happen just on different timescales.
How far away are we from that paradigm shift?
That's a great question. So, a lot of people looking at prediction markets, looking at what the top experts are saying, believe it's very close, maybe as little as 2, 3 years. Some think, oh no, it's going to take a very long time, maybe 5 or 6, but it's all the same thing, really.
And looking at how this has evolved, it just seems to be going faster and faster, doesn't it? I mean, it's mind blowing to look at the development of the internet and how that has changed society. Are people prepared and aware for how much AI is going to change their lives in their own lifetimes in the near future, according to what you just said?
Yeah, we're not prepared and we don't even understand what's going to change. It's kind of unpredictable, unexplainable part of my book. We cannot guess ahead of time what impact would be and what a more intelligent agent would actually accomplish. The reason it seems like it's accelerating is because AI itself is now used to do research, to write code, to develop new hardware. So it's a self-feeding loop until it becomes its own scientist and engineer.
Yeah, so I trade the stock market and I follow a lot of the different companies involved in AI. And I'm also trying to think about companies that might lose market share because of AI. And I know you've talked about in your book a lot of job losses for people. So could we take a closer look at what industries you will think will be affected, where people will lose jobs, and what companies could thrive or what companies could be wiped by AI?
So we already saw an example. I think what was the name of the Chegg, a company which was supposed to help you cheat in your homework? That went to zero very quickly. The moment they released ChatGPT, that was gone. Anything basically on a computer, anything where it doesn't require a physical body right now, you can automate accounting, legal, all sorts of marketing, design, manipulation, programming is another example. I think anything physical, anything human interaction has a little more time in it, but ultimately, nothing is safe from technological unemployment.
So, do you think that jobs that humans have to perform, for example, like entertainment, personal training, stuff like that, will that continue to be performed by humans, or will that be replaced as well?
So some people just like that, like you want a human personal trainer. There is an app which does all the same functions and probably does a better job, but people still enjoy this human interaction. So for a certain amount of people, it's always going to be the case. It will become more and more expensive relatively to the free AI option. So not as many people will engage in it for simple reason it's too expensive. But yeah, I think we'll always have a few richer individuals who can afford handmade products and man-made services, but majority of people will be very happy getting it for almost free from AI.
So what about manual labor jobs? Will robots be performing them?
It seems obvious, yeah. We have very good robots being developed, a lot of dexterity in their hands, very humanoid capable. So there is at least 3 or 4 companies about to release very advanced humanoid robots.
Which companies are they?
So we have Tesla developing their own robot. There is Figure. There is a number of Chinese companies whose names I would never be able to pronounce doing this work. I don't know who's going to be first to the market. I think Tesla is building something very likely to scale. They also have brains to put into it. So it seems like a complete product.
Yeah, I follow the Chinese companies like Baidu and WeRide and stuff like that very closely. WeRide's trading around $10 last time I looked, and I'm watching the videos of their driverless taxis. Um, Looks like it's got a lot of potential. So, what other industries do you think the AI is a competitive threat against? Foreign translation stuff, things like that.
No, language translation, yeah, that's dead. I have no idea why someone would major right now in being a Spanish translator graduating in 4 years. It just doesn't seem like there is going to be any need for that. My phone can do it right now. There are headphones you can put in and get live translation. So it seems completely useless outside of kind of cultural enrichment if you just want to get, liberal education.
So all these people who are put out of work, what are they going to do with their spare time?
That's a great question. I have no idea how society will change in terms of what you do with a lot of extra time, especially if it's more and more competitive. So other people are looking for the same opportunities as well. You cannot go hiking in your park because there is a million people hiking in that trail.
So we'll just be sat around with virtual reality machines on our
That's a big
faces.
possibility. If virtual reality gets to be realistic, there is no limit to what you can do in that space. So that's another very promising technology.
So, do you think superintelligence could trigger a global collapse?
It can do anything, really. That's the part we don't fully understand what the limits are and what goals it would be trying to achieve.
Because I remember when we had the stock market crash of 1987, and they said a lot of that it was accentuated by program trading.
Mhm.
But I just can't imagine the level of tech involved in trading now with the incorporation of AI. Do you think AI could go short, intentionally crash the stock market, make profits, scare the hell out of the investors, and buy everything back when blood is running in the streets?
It's actually quite easy. So now we have leaders tweeting at any time randomly about world events. So if you hack someone's Twitter, someone important, and announce that World War III started, or we're banning gold or something like that, that can cause very predictable change in the market you can monetize. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was interest in trying to do that.
Yeah, we saw the post by Trump last Friday, I believe, and I think almost 200 million was made. Somebody front run with an insider trade on a Bitcoin short and made 200 million, within minutes, within hours. And it's that easy to manipulate the markets. But action like that, I believe, in the long term, just destroys confidence in the financial markets if they can see that everybody running government is completely corrupt and making money from insider trading.
Absolutely. I mean, confidence in information, confidence in investing, all of that is now subject to manipulation. Yeah,
So, do you have investments in the stock market yourself?
a little bit.
Are you able to elaborate on which companies you're interested in?
So it seems that anything to do with supporting development of AI is doing well. So NVIDIA's of the world will continue regardless of what model is dominating, what company is winning. Everyone just needs more compute. Compute is directly convertible to more capability, more intelligence. So I think investing in semiconductors is pretty good bet. Even if AI kind of doesn't work out, you still have cryptocurrencies, gaming markets, virtual reality markets. There is no shortage of need for more capable computing systems.
I see so many videos from people saying that Nvidia is the part of the bubble, and um, other companies like Palantir are part of the bubble. And usually, when there's a lot of videos out like that, the crash doesn't come until everybody has been sucked in, and they're believing that you know the rise will never ever end. But looking at the valuations of Nvidia, Palantir, etc., PE ratios, do you think they're overpriced at least, and it could be near the top of a bubble?
I think if you look at it from the point of view of dollar being so inflated, it's very different story, right? So gold is now over 4,000 an ounce. If you price those things in gold, they haven't grown, they're linear. In dollars, they exploded, but that's because dollar became basically worthless in relative terms to Bitcoin or dollar or gold. So it really depends on the unit of measure there.
Doesn't there come a point whereby the power required to make all of this AI work becomes a huge burden on society? And could you describe how much power is going to be required
Yeah,
in the
power
rest?
consumption is growing exponentially. We are building a lot more capabilities, solar capabilities, nuclear, fission. Electricity is a product, and we are great at making products if there is demand, if there is money to be made. So we'll definitely be able to scale it well beyond what is currently available. I'm not concerned at all about production of additional power. That's happening already. We have build up of those new plants, build up of new servers and new computational farms.
And we're seeing the resurgence of nuclear power stations being built. And is that because of the demands from AI? I've been watching uranium prices go up this year.
Yeah, I think it's connected. People finally realizing that's actually a great source of very clean energy. Just, you have to be careful about safety measures, but it's safer than most standard fossil fuels.
So, I've heard interviews with you where they're talking about us living in a simulation. What does that mean?
It means you are playing a video game right now. If you think we'll get to a certain level of capability with virtual reality, if I'll get to the same level of capability in terms of intelligence as what a human is, anyone with access to those tools now can generate simulations of our world, populated by millions, billions of people just like you. And so there is a good chance if there is billions of players all running those virtual simulations that whoever finds themselves experiencing something is more likely to be in a virtual experience than in a real one.
If you've got any questions, viewers, please put them in the live chat to do with AI, dystopia, or otherwise. So you're saying I'm playing a video game right now. Is that
Well,
because I'm interfacing with the internet?
the real character behind your avatar decided to play this game and see if they can compete in this world as a podcaster or whatever it is you're trying to accomplish.
And if you look at the infinite improbability of existence over time, do you think that this has happened over and over?
Well, there's likely many simulations of different parts of history, different, some could be for entertainment, for testing, for training purposes. We really don't know from inside what is the most likely explanation. But it seems that looking at what we are doing, a huge portion of it is just entertainment, games, maybe immersive movies later on. But there is also scientific experimentation. People want to understand how economics works. So you're curious about the stock market? Let me simulate, couple humanities and see what they invest in, what works well. And that's very likely what we're going to be doing in, a decade or two.
So Agent Orange wants to know your thoughts on, is the biggest advantage of being in a simulation an independent brain and gravity?
I have no idea what that means.
I have no idea what that means either, Agent Orange. If you could rephrase that, please. So Cosmic Code wants to know your thoughts on authors against technology like John Zerzan.
Authors who say we shouldn't have technology like Unabomber style, kind of Ted Kaczynski. I don't know who John Zerzan is.
Well,
Just
let's look at the Luddites, for example. There's always movements against technology.
yeah.
What do you think of those people in general?
So in general, they're wrong. So being opposed to helpful tools, medical interventions, saving lives, curing diseases is awesome. I think a lot of tools make our lives better. The fact that we can do this right now by video call and don't have to travel for 10 weeks to be there is awesome. I'm a scientist, I'm an engineer, I love technology, but we stopped building tools and targeting agents who will replace us. That's a very different question. And I think it's very reasonable to be concerned about being replaced by someone you cannot compete with.
So on the subject of medical advancements, then, looking at the amount of decisions that AI can make in a few seconds versus a doctor, and the potential fusion of genetic engineering and AI, what advancements do you see there that will be positive?
So the hope is we can cure all diseases, and aging is a type of disease. So maybe we can make you stay young and live forever.
Yeah, one of the companies I'm following in the stock market is CRISPR Therapeutics,
Mhm.
who are doing a lot of gene editing and infusing AI into it. So, all right, living forever. Does the planet have the capacity for us to live forever and yet reproduce and the population to keep increasing?
So already we're not reproducing. Outside of maybe one or two continents, most of us are shrinking, dying out, and have as few kids as possible without having zero kids. So if you live longer, you're even less likely to need to have kids. Your biological clock is not ticking at 18, 20, 25. You can wait until you're 10,000 years old if you ever decide to. We also are not limited to this planet. You can go explore Mars. You have enough time to do it. So I think there is absolutely no population-based concerns whatsoever.
I mean, that just thinking about that makes my brain explode because many of us think about death from time to time and how that's just accepted. Death and taxes, the famous cliche. But you're saying that we could just, is it, we would just, AI would just replace our body parts that wear out. We get a new heart, liver, kidneys, etc., and we can just keep going.
Well, probably the best way to do it is to manipulate your genome to make you kind of natively refresh all your cells in your body. We sort of do it right now, but there is a limited number of those refresh cycles. If we can just make it almost infinite without causing any cancers, that would keep you young forever. And I'm happy to have AI destroy both death and taxes. Both will actually be won by that. If you can get free labor, physical and cognitive, there is no reason to extort us.
Nikki wants to know if AI will be able to reverse menopause.
Yes, the answer is yes.
um, okay, let me go to the next question from Carl. What will determine who is the winner in the race to quantum and AI domination? Is it A, resources, B, intelligence and engineering capability, or C, being willing to make unethical decisions?
That's actually a pretty good question, and I think it's a combination of all of those. Resources are not just compute and data; it's also human resource. You need the best engineers, best scientists. If you do an efficient algorithm, your hardware resources can be reduced greatly because you just don't need so much brute force. So that's definitely the two ingredients, but then maybe taking questionable steps is another one. So the ethics concern is definitely there. Not sure about quantum being a necessity for this. We seem to be doing really well with just von Neumann architectures without any need for special quantum effects.
So talking about ethical considerations then, open AI seemed to come out with an altruistic mandate. Do you think that has changed over the years?
So yeah, I don't think they following an initial plan. I mean, the open part in OpenAI is definitely not there. They're not sharing what they have, and that's a good thing. We definitely don't want every psychopath to have access to the most advanced AI, but overall, they seem to be trying to be a very commercial organization, not a non-profit with goal of helping humanity.
So what do you think of the AI philosophies of Elon Musk versus Sam Altman?
They, in a certain way, are very different, but also tend to converge. So at this point, I think they're both trying to get there first. They're both racing, and both are probably convinced that only themselves can do it right, and everyone else is a psychopath. And I don't know.
And in China, do they have figures like Musk that are also at the forefront of Chinese AI?
I'm less familiar with that market. They do have brilliant scholars and successful business people, and the government is, of course, involved in all stages of AI development.
So Pedro wants to know if AI will cause a big cull and machines will be used but will not be the cause,
Cause a big what?
wiping out humanity.
So that's the concern we have, right? Existential risks from advanced AI. For whatever reason, they decide to take us out as a competitor, as a side effect of doing something else with resources. We cannot predict specifics, but it is a possibility.
But even though AI becomes more intelligent than us, isn't it always going to need us to run the power and stuff?
We discussed already having physical labor automated. So no, I don't think so. If it can create nanobots, if it can create access to human bots, plus you can always keep, certain number of humans around if you really need them. It doesn't mean you need 8 billion, 9 billion of them.
So it would look at the rest of us as extra to its needs and then take the appropriate action because we will be a burden on the resource it's using to sustain itself.
So we basically cannot guarantee that it will not decide to do something stupid like that. Maybe it won't. We don't know, but I would like certain level of guarantees of safety from a product or service being released.
Would that be a stupid decision though, or is it a correct decision in terms of preserving the planet? Aren't we like a parasite on
Who are
a
who are
bacteria?
you preserving it for if it's not for us? That doesn't make any sense. Squirrels?
What about the rest of the wildlife then? Is the wildlife, would that be earmarked to be eliminated by AI as being unnecessary?
So we don't know if it is a global change to the environment. Let's say it wants to cool down the whole planet to improve computation on its servers, then yes, all living forms would be in danger.
Okay. Cats, do you think there is a link between body snatching and transhumanism?
I don't know what body snatching is.
Yeah, that sounds like something Ed Gein was involved in. I don't know how that pertains to AI. Cats, if you want to rephrase the question. Nikki, are we living in the Matrix? We've already covered the simulation question. Let's see. That's correct. How do you work? All right. Loving your position. Are we living in the Matrix? Have we done that one yet? Okay. All right, folks. So if you've got any more questions, please get them in the chat. We're with Dr. Roman. I'm going to put his links in the description box right now. We've got his book, Considerations on the AI Endgame, Ethics, Risk, and Computational Frameworks. And you can also follow him on X and Google Scholar. So why aren't other countries like Russia and India that have got quite big resources involved in this AI race that it seems that China and America are in?
Why are they not as competitive?
Yep.
So Russia, I think, has other problems right now. They are under sanctions. They're in the middle of a war, so I don't think they have as many resources available to divert. I know a lot less about India, but I think economically they are greatly behind China for many reasons. And so it's just a question of what is available, but I'm not an expert on those specific nations.
And you started the conversation out talking about drones. So how important have drones become and will increasingly become in warfare?
It seems they have a primary source now of both defense and offensive capabilities. Again, taking out bigger tools of war and individuals.
Oh yeah, so Katz is asking about AI taking bodies for laboratory experimental purposes.
I haven't heard of that happening. I guess it's possible that AI would try to understand human biology better and experiment on humans, but I assume it can work with dead bodies or a very limited number of volunteers. I don't have any specific concerns about that.
You're asking whether you know how invested Bill Gates is in AI.
I think he has a large portfolio of investments. I think I'm sure a lot of it is exposure to large companies such as Tesla, which do conduct AI research, and others. At some point, he was selling it short, so I don't know if it's actually anti-bad, but I have no idea.
How does AI fit into spirituality? Because some people are classifying it as the Antichrist.
And some people worshiping it as the new god and think simulation is a religious concept, and really there is no shortage of diverse views on it. If you have something which is a super being, much more intelligent, more powerful, all knowing, then it does map pretty well on many religious concepts. But whatever you think it's a force for good or evil is up to you, I guess.
Here in the UK, they're trying to introduce a digital ID, and the public are really rebelling against it. They're very suspicious that this will be linked to AI and become a digital control grid. Do you have any thoughts on the digital ID proposition?
I don't know specifically anything about it, but if the idea is to have government centralized tracking of you, your data, anything you are allowed to do, that definitely presents problems. I think in UK there is already a lot of concern about free speech and liberties, so that would be just another tool to limit what you can do, open a bank account, move freely, and so on.
Yeah, we've got over 10,000 people arrested here for social media posts, like elderly people, people going out to protest, blind people, old age pensioners. It's absolutely sickening what's happening here, and people are really on edge that it's going to get much worse with this digital ID.
Why are
Now,
politicians doing it? Is there any support for that? How are they getting away with it?
it just seems like they're enforcing it on the public. I mean, Keir Starmer, if you look at the polls, he's the least popular prime minister in the history of the polls. So it just seems he's going all out to implement an agenda that the public doesn't want because he's got nothing to lose at this stage. I mean, with the digital ID, they're going to make billions off the contracts behind that, the companies.
Hmm.
They're saying that Tony Blair's son is involved in profiteering from it. But it's got rolled out in Canada and Mexico at the same time. So it seems like it is a global agenda that they're enforcing on the public around the world right now.
So some countries are very successful with having those digital IDs, digital passports, digital histories, behavioral histories. I guess it really depends on what you do with that information.
All right, Roman. So in conclusion, then, we've got the trajectory of AI dystopia. We've got the more optimistic utopian path. What signs could we see in the near future that would indicate which path it's taking?
So we're likely to notice a lot of unemployment in certain occupations. So we're starting to see a number of junior programmers who can get co-ops, internships is being decreased already. So if we start to see, some industries engaging in mass layoffs, that probably is a indicator of things to come.
All right. Is there anything you would like to say in conclusion to the viewers watching this?
Yeah, no, thanks for the questions. Enjoyed it. Good job.
All right. Thank you for your time, my friend. Good luck in your endeavors, and you take care. I'll close the show. Cheers from the UK.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, viewers, thank you for putting all of your questions in the live chat. And like I said, you can get Dr. Roman's book. I'll put it in the live chat again if you want to follow on X or send any more questions over to X. We've also got his Google Scholar in the description box if you're watching this on replay as well. Just go down to the description box for all the links. And just to let you guys know what's coming up next, if you missed the live stream before this, it was about the Ian Watkins getting snuffed out in Monster Mansion Prison, the Lost Prophet singer, with our guest Chris Summers. And then tomorrow we've got Andrew Loney back on, 11:30 a.m. with Lauren talking about will Prince Andrew's Epstein emails get royal ban from King Charles. So Andrew Loney, he's got his new book out and it is selling like crazy. Then we've got Lauren back on Saturday at 7 p.m. with Jonathan Hay on a video called Diddy, Rihanna, and Witchcraft. Then we have got Barbara the model exposing the elites on from 8 to 9 with me and Ron. And then we've got old school Liverpool gangster Charlie Seeger coming on at 9. So that's what we've got coming up in the next few days. All right. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Hope to see some of you in the next streams. Take care wherever you are in the world. And cheers.